No, I mean India are a better team. In these conditions, it's tough. The England side, they can make up excuses if they wish, but the bare facts are that India are a better cricket team. They've got batsmen that can bat for longer. They can nullify the spin. They can play the defensive game, but they can also go up and down in the gears at the right time. They don't hit the ball in the air that often. They hit the ball on the floor for the most part of their innings, so they've got a better batting unit in these conditions. Clearly, spin is a big difference, but that's not surprised us. I think England have got to be careful that they don't come out with little sayings like, oh yeah, but if we'd have caught Virat Kohli on 68, because the 1% differences and they make a big difference at the end of the game because he's such a quality player. Because you could go back to the first one, and if India had taken Keaton Jennings when he was on naught, this game could have been done in 3 days. So the facts of it in an 11 versus 11, India's 11 in these conditions is a better 11, better suited to play a style of cricket required. The worry for England is that now they've played 6 test matches in these types of conditions, 2 in Bangladesh and now 4 in India. The question would be, to everyone that's been watching, have they got better? Have they improved as a side? And I don't think they have, and that's a real worry. The fact that they got 400 in and still lose by an innings. Last week they lost by 8 wickets. The week before they lost by 246 runs. That's my concern with this England test match team. When they lose, they get a hammering. Trevor Bayliss has now lost 11 out of 21 games as the coach of the England side, and their worst loss has been by 75 runs to Pakistan at Lord's. So, that's a concern for me, that they're not taking the game a little bit deeper. They're not getting a little bit closer to the opposing teams. They are getting a drubbing. It's a difficult tour when you're away from home for a period of time in conditions that are a little bit alien. But I just want to see a bit of progression, and I'm not seeing that.
Well, I'm with you, and you can be outgunned and so on, but you can still learn, can't you? I just thought that, especially the first innings here in Mumbai, there didn't seem evidence of them having learned the importance of getting your head down and getting those runs in the first innings. 230 for 2. They should have got 500, shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go back to Vizag in the first innings. Yes, they were batting second. India had got 455. What were England out for? 255. They should have got 400 there, so they were 150 light on that occasion. Batted first in Mohali on a flat one. Bowled out for 280. Again, that was a 450 pitch. 170 light. They get 400 here. Should have got 500. So they're consistently probably producing scores that are 150, 100 runs light. When you knew that the spinning department was like this, the only way that England are going to compete in these conditions are like in Rajkot, get 537. Once they did that, they competed throughout the test match. I just think that this test match team, we watch all the cricket, and the one-day team, we know the DNA of the one-day side now. Since the disaster of the World Cup, they got together, we play this aggressive way. Yes, it comes unstuck. They were bowled out in 42 overs at the Rose Bowl. I think one of the first times they went out playing this way. All the old school comment, oh, you can't play, they got about 50 over. Owen Morgan came out and said, that is the style of cricket we're going to play. And over a period of time, you train the brain to play in that fashion, it becomes more consistent, and that's exactly what's happened. I don't know that this test team knows what their style of play is. Brendan McCullum's way, aggressive, attacking. You knew with the batting that they came out to try and score quickly, aggressive fields. You look at this series, Rajkot the last day, they went and scored at 2 and over on that last morning, didn't give themselves a huge amount of time to bowl India out, had them 6 down. If they'd have been a bit more expansive, and that was the style of test cricket that they played, who knows, they might have gone 1-0 up in the series. Yesterday afternoon, 2-0 down in the series, chasing the game. They came out and played in a real freedom expansion, and watched that and thought, why don't England play like that more often? Because if you look at the style of play that they have, particularly from 4, 5, 6 and 7 now, they're so aggressive. And I just wonder whether it's worth the England test team at the end of this tour just sitting down as a group, January, February, whoever the leader is, whoever the coach will be the same, and just sitting down and go, do we really know the way that we're trying to play our test match game? And if it is that they go, we're going to play this aggressive way, you can't just be aggressive with the bat. You've then got to be aggressive with the ball in terms of field setting, exactly like Brendan McCullum did. Lots of slips, yeah, it looks silly at times, and the ball flies to all parts. But if you're going to have a way of playing, you stick to it. England play this attritional game at times, and then they come out and play expansively, and you go, which style are you trying to play? Because unless you know what your DNA as a team is, you can't become consistent. You look at Nasser's team, were always backs to the wall kind of cricket. It worked. We were hard to beat over that period. My style of play was to be very aggressive, be really attacking. You know, it worked for a while. Andrew Strauss's style of play was very attritional, strategic, formulaic, you know, a lot of information from the computer. It worked. I would just question whether this Test match team really know what style of Test match team they're trying to become. And until they decide that, it's very, very difficult to become consistent.
And just a last thought, Michael. It would be a shame, from England's perspective, disappointing to the fans if they fell in a heap in this last Test match, wouldn't it? But I mean, morale will be low. There will be an eye on going home. You can't avoid these things. They've been away for 3 months, some of them. How do they avoid that?
Well, it's very difficult. I think they've maybe the conversation that maybe they have it this week. Maybe they have it before, because the series has gone. They've been hammered. Maybe now is the start. Maybe it's the time over the next 2 or 3 days to get in there and go, right, what style of Test match team do we want to become? And start in Chennai. It might be completely different in terms of the conditions that you're going to play in over the next year and a half, but start now. Start afresh. What we're going to be as a bowling unit. Jimmy, Brody, that might be the challenge. If some of the team decide to play more aggressively, more expansively, you know, you go back to Vizag on the first evening, second new ball taken, wicket, snick behind, Ashwin comes in, 2 slips, third man on the boundary. Brendan McCullum would have had 4 or 5 slips for 3 or 4 overs with that second new ball. So decide on the method of play that your Test team are going to play in. Maybe this is the week to go out and play, and they probably will get beaten. They might get hammered. I mean, I can't see any other result where you think about Rajkot, they played so well, nearly win the game, then they're going to lose by 246, 8 wickets, and now by innings. Not really in the history of the game as teams suddenly turned it around in Indian conditions. So maybe this is the week that they just decide the style of play they're going to be and go out and try and produce it in Chennai in different conditions, but get used to it, play it, agree on it, give each other a shake of the hand and say, right, in 2017, we'll start now in Chennai, but 2017 is going to be a year where we absolutely know, and the public know, and we know, this is the style of play that the Test match team are going to produce.
At the end there, a bit of an altercation, wasn't it? The umpires moving in. Ravi Ashwin certainly got into Jimmy Anderson's ear. We know what Anderson's like. He's been chirping away. It looked like a bit of sort of get a bit back time, wasn't it? Are you concerned about that spilling over or not?
I just think it's becoming a regular occurrence when England play India. And there's not been many close series. You know, England gave India a good old hiding in English conditions. Virat Kohli had a terrible time, and I think England, when they're winning and they've got the wool over their teams, I think they're quite chirpy. Yeah. And I think they say a few things that stick in the memory bank of the opposing team, and that's what's happened. And then Jimmy came out last night, showed no experience at all with the Indian press. You know what you're getting with the Indian press. They'll make one small comment into a huge headline, and for him to say that, oh, Virat's technique's not changed and it's just the conditions here that suit his style of play, it's so naive. Alistair Cook gets asked a similar question tonight. He just said Virat's the great batsman of the generation. Perfect. You have to sometimes play a straight bat. Jimmy doesn't when he bats. He likes to play the reverse sweeps, and I'm afraid Jimmy in the press conference got his reverse sweep out, which is going to wind the Indians up. You know, do I like seeing it? Not really, but is it good for the game? Yeah, it's a talking point. So as long as there's nothing in terms of, you know, the Michael Clarke break your arm comment in Australia, I thought that was terrible, but I thought tonight it was just a little bit, or this morning it was a little bit of handbags, wasn't it? But you're going to get that when teams are chirping. The Indians are a chirpy team, and England are a chirpy team. So again, it stores up, and the baggage is there, and eventually explosions.